Literally Heinous. Literally Heinous with Lily Maslia.
Welcome back to Literally Heinous. This is a special episode about the Odyssey, so I'm calling this the Podyssey. Welcome to the Podyssey. I just saw the Odyssey in theaters. I wasn't supposed to see it when I did because I was supposed to be flying out of Savannah on Sunday night. I was in Atlanta for almost 3 weeks, or in Georgia for 3 weeks, and then I was in Tybee for the last week on my family vacation that we do every year. And I was supposed to come back Sunday, and then JetBlue screwed us over, like fully. And then they canceled our flight with 7 hours notice, not even a reason given, okay? And then Jack and I booked separate tickets because I'd already been in Atlanta for 2 weeks. So he booked like JetBlue flight to Savannah, JetBlue flight out, and then I booked his same one way out. They rebooked him to the next day, Monday evening, and then they rebooked me to Tuesday. I was like, that's not an option. I was just like, what are you even thinking? Like, what is their logic? You think that people can just cancel a flight and then have someone fly out 2 days later? Like, where was I supposed to stay? It's like, okay, luckily I have disposable income and we're able to get a hotel. But I was just like, what about the people that like legitimately don't have anywhere to stay? Do you expect to sleep on the streets for 2 days? And so I canceled that flight, and then I got a separate one-way home, Delta, of course. And it's just like, I should have known. Like, I'm such a Delta girl through and through. I really try to only fly Delta just in like the one-off cases where it's like I'm getting a one-way or something like that. I'll do something else when it's like an easy flight. And I should have known. And now I'm never flying another airline ever again. So I flew home on Delta. And anyways, the silver lining through all of that is that we had to spend the night in Savannah. Well, actually, we were in Pooler, Georgia, which is where the Savannah airport is. And it's home of the tallest IMAX screen in the entire world, which was crazy. And this like huge movie theater there. And we'd been like, I wanted to see the Odyssey, and it had just come out that weekend. And I was looking at tickets in New York. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be like $30 to see it in New York. Like everything is booked up. It's going to be impossible to get a ticket. So then we got to see the Odyssey in Pooler, Georgia. We're not able to get tickets to the tallest IMAX theater screen in the world, which was fine. So we had to see it in one of their other theaters with Dolby Atmos. And the theater that we saw it in was great. Like the screen was so huge. It was honestly an ideal viewing experience. Dolby Atmos was crazy. It was the loudest movie I've ever heard in my entire life. Like the seats were vibrating. It was really crazy, but I'm so glad that I was able to see it because I was already seeing like so much online about it and it got really good reviews. I just didn't get around to getting tickets. But guys, I went into this movie bald as an eagle. Like there was a bunch of discourse. I think it was last year when like this movie was really announced and when it was like, okay, Christopher Nolan's next movie is the Odyssey. There was a bunch of discourse around like, people don't know what the Odyssey is. You've only had 3,000 years to figure it out. Or like, wait, y'all are telling me that you didn't read the Odyssey in high school? Like, there's so many people that don't know what the Odyssey is. And I fancied myself as like, I know what the Odyssey is. But if you were to put a gun to my head and ask me what is the Odyssey, I think I would have just said like, guy goes on adventure, ? And that was all I knew. And I just like I think that I'm smarter than I am, or that I know more things, or it's like I know of things. Like, okay, I know that the Odyssey is a Greek epic about some Greek guy that went on some adventure. And it's like, okay, well, that's not enough. And I did the same thing for Oppenheimer, just like, oh yeah, guy that invented atomic bomb, blah, this will be easy. And I spent the whole time in Oppenheimer just like wishing that I knew like who was who, what was going on, the backstories. And spoiler culture has like ruined people's interest in like studying for things and like has really grown people's desire to be like totally and completely surprised and blown away. But sometimes like with Christopher Nolan type movies or like a biopic or like something like adapted, something that's based off of a classic, it really behooves you to know what you're watching so that you're not like wasting your brain power like trying to connect dots or remember names. And like especially with something like the Odyssey, like there's not spoilers really. I mean, the story's 3,000 years old. Like it's a guy that goes on an adventure and then comes home. Like there's really nothing to spoil. So like there was no reason not to like totally learn what happens, because also the movie, kind of hard to hear. Like the dialogue is hard to hear. I needed subtitles the whole time. And then it's like remembering the names of people. And it's like, okay, I know all the actors. And I'm like, oh, okay, Tom Holland and then Robert Pattinson. But like, you need to know the names of people and it's hard to remember that. So I felt like the whole time I was spending a lot of my brain power just like, wait, what's going on? Who's that? Why are they doing that? Like you're missing the key context. So I am recording this podcast because the movie was really, really good. And I really wished that I had known so much more about it. I saw it with Jack, and turns out he's like, of course, Jack, what can't he do? He was like, read the Odyssey in high school or read like a snippet of it, like was familiar with it, and then took a Greek mythology course in college at Ohio State. So I'm like, I didn't know jack shit. So I'm recording this because I think that if you want to go see the movie and you want to fully appreciate it, you should really like know who's who. There's no spoilers, guys. Like it's not like a spoilable type movie. When so much happens and it's not really about the plot, it's about like everything. The best part of movies isn't like being surprised about what happens. It's like, how do you get there? And it's like, that's the cool thing to do in movies. Like in the Odyssey, it's not like, oh my God, he made it home. That's crazy. It's like, how did he make it home? And it's like that journey. And it's like, you can know what happens on that journey and you can still be surprised by like the magnitude of the movie and like how much fun it is and the colors and the costumes and the cinematography and like the beasts and the practical effects. And it's like when I was in high school, like I thought I knew what happened in Gone Girl. Well, I did know what happened in Gone Girl. And like I knew the twist. So I never saw the movie because I was like, oh, I know the twist. I know what happens. And then when I finally like sat down and watched the movie like years later when I was out of college, I was like, oh, that twist is like a quarter of the way through the movie. And it's not even really about the twist. It's about like how these things happen. So I think that people really need to loosen their grip on spoiler culture. And I didn't not read about the Odyssey because of spoilers. I just thought I'd figure it out. I don't know. And this is, I think that I'm smarter than I am. Okay, so some context on the movie. So the Odyssey came out July 17th, and it has been a smash hit, everybody. Christopher Nolan, 3 years ago, Oppenheimer came out. Barbenheimer, summer 2023, best day of my life. And Oppenheimer was a huge hit, $1 billion at the box office, won Best Picture. So Christopher Nolan essentially got like a blank check for this movie. And Chris, I'm going to call him Chris for the rest of this episode. So Chris has been like top dog director for a minute, but I feel like after Oppenheimer, like that solidified him as like director of the generation. Like he's the best. He's literally the GOAT. I've seen almost all of his movies. Oh my God, the Dark Knight trilogy. This is another like really basic opinion, but the Dark Knight trilogy is fucking insane. Another thing that I didn't see until after I was in college. Like after college, I thought it was like boy movies. Like I used to think that Dark Knight was like, oh, it's a boy movie. I don't want to see it. And then I like finally sat down and watched them after college and was like, my fucking God, these movies are incredible. Like I have full body chills. The absolute like bangers of one-liners in those movies is so good. And anyone that's not watching them because it's like, oh, I don't like superhero movies, you have to understand that the Dark Knight is completely exempt from Marvel. The reason that we are in like a Marvel K-hole today is because Christopher Nolan whipped out these absolute bangers of superhero movies that were so beautiful. And it was about like humanity and about like heroism and like corruption and just like they were so good. And like they were kind of funny too. It was the first superhero movies that kind of had those like quippy little like sarcastic one-liners or like those like mic drop moments that are so like goofy now. And I feel like Marvel movies and like Stranger Things has really just run that shit into the ground. Like it's like Ryan Reynolds humor. And so there is some like cringe comedy moments and cringe dialogue in The Dark Knight, but you have to understand that is the blueprint. Okay, so you have to look past it. So after Oppenheimer came out, and it got $1 billion on only a $100 million budget, Universal basically took Christopher Nolan away from Warner Brothers because he was with Warner Brothers forever. That's when he did Dark Knight trilogy. After Oppenheimer, Universal gave him this like great deal for his next movie. Basically like a total blank check, let him do whatever he wanted, full, complete creative control. So Chris and his wife, Emma, and she's really like his right-hand man. Like she is running the show with him. Like they're a total like creative couple powerhouse. They also, Universal Universal gave them like an extended theater window. Like I think this movie's like gonna be out in theaters until like December, and then they gave it like a blackout period, so like barring other movies from coming out at the same time. So this movie filmed last summer, which is kind of crazy to me. So I'm like, okay, they were filming and then like editing all of that within a year. Like that sounds like such a tight turnaround for a 3-hour movie. It was filmed in Morocco, Greece, Italy, Iceland, Scotland, and the US, and filmed over 91 days. The cast is pretty crazy. So Matt Damon is a star. He plays Odysseus, and he was paid $15 million. Tom Holland is like the secondary lead, who's Odysseus' son, and he was paid around $10 million. And then Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, Charlize Theron, and Zendaya were all in like the $5 million to $7 million range, which is just absolutely insane. Like the star power and just like how much money people get paid, especially certain people are barely on screen. Okay, so I'm gonna go through the basic story of the Odyssey, and don't even try to skip this and say like, oh, spoilers. I don't want to hear it. Fucking listen, okay? Because you're going to be thanking me later. Okay, so the Odyssey, it starts with the end of the Trojan War. So the Trojan War is when the Greeks fought the Trojans, and Trojans are people from Troy, and that lasted for 10 years, the war. The war was fought over Helen of Troy, and Helen of Troy was supposedly the most beautiful woman of all time, the most beautiful woman in the world, and she was married to the king of Sparta. But then stories differ. Some adaptions say she was kidnapped. Some adaptions say that she ran away. But either way, she was taken by a Trojan prince. So then the Troy people had her. And so the Greeks rallied to get her back. They fought for 10 years. And then the way the war ends is with the Trojan horse. Guys, like, so the movie opens with the Trojan horse. And this part I'll actually like give it to you with spoilers, because this is the coolest part of the movie, like the way that they execute it. But basically there's this big giant horse, okay? It's a big giant like wooden horse. This is how the movie starts, because like this is how the war ends. But basically this big giant horse is how the Greeks win the war and beat the Trojans. I won't say what happens in case you don't know about the Trojan horse, but I was like leaning over to Jack and I was like, wait, what's that thing? He was like, the Trojan horse. Like, you know what the Trojan horse means, right? And I was like, totally. I did not know. Okay, so then the movie is like a little bit told out of order. Like you're in present day, which is Tom Holland, who's the son of Odysseus, Matt Damon, and then he's still living with his mom, Anne Hathaway. So at this point, like the way the movie starts, Odysseus has been gone for 20 years because the war was fought for 10 years. And then after the war ends, that's when like the Odyssey begins. So then Odysseus spends 10 years after the 10 years in the war, basically just like fucking around, like going, like traveling all over the seas. Like he was the commander of the ship, so he had like all of his soldiers with him, and they were just getting into all sorts of shenanigans and hoopla and hooting and hollering. And that's like the Odyssey that people refer to. It's the different like monsters that they interact with. It's the different like villages that they interact with. And it's really just like about his own greed and like his ego. And like he could have gone home after the war, he could have brought everyone home, but then they spend like a couple years fucking around, and then he gets like trapped on this like island with Charlize Theron for a long time. And then that's sort of like the framing device for the movie. It's like you have present day Odysseus like telling the story of like where he's been the last few years to Charlize Theron, who by the way looks so out of place in that movie. Like I love Charlize, but she like really had bad like iPhone face, and like everyone else in the movie I think like looked great. I think Anne Hathaway looked great. She did not look like plastic or Botoxy at all. There was no iPhone face. Everyone looked like had very unique facial features. Everyone was very beautiful. But Charlize Theron, I mean, she's so beautiful, but it's almost like distracting because it's like I can see the Botox and the fillers. Whatever. Still love her though. So he's like with her, like recounting his experience. And then like while he's recounting the experience, there's Tom Holland, who he's like, I want to go on a journey and like find my dad. Like I know that he's alive because like the war's over. I just know that he's out there. So then the story kind of flips back and forth between like the Odyssey and like all of their adventures, and then like present day with Tom Holland. So Tom Holland and Anne Hathaway, mother, son. So she's been like waiting for Odysseus to come home. And in those 20 years, she has like all these suitors in the castle. And this I didn't really understand. So like there's a bunch of just like men in the castle that are just like eating and drinking. And they're there to like woo Anne Hathaway to try to become, you know, like king, even though Tom Holland is next in line to become king. So people are kind of like racing against the clock because now Tom Holland, whose character's name is Telemachus. So now that Telemachus, and sorry, I'm pronouncing all these names wrong. So now that he's like kind of grown up now, the race is on to try to like become king. So one of the suitors, Robert Pattinson's character, his name is Antinous, and he's kind of the bad guy, and I guess that's why his name is like Antinous, because it's like anti. So he's the one that's like really vying to marry Anne Hathaway so that he can become king. And he's like Tom Holland's main enemy. And then there's a lot of like mentions of Greek gods in there. So Zeus is mentioned a lot, Poseidon, the sun god, and then we have actual Athena, who Zendaya plays. And Odysseus like loves Athena, like that's his god of choice. And she's like barely in the movie, you guys. Like she has like 3 lines at a time max, like 2 words each. And she wasn't even like fitted out. Like I kind of wanted to see her in like wings and like really beautiful garb, but she was wearing her like Dune costume and it was kind of lame to me. Sorry. There's just a lot of talks about like Greek mythology, like with Zeus's law. That's a big thing. So like treating people how you want to be treated, essentially. And another Greek mythology thing that I learned about is like the law of hospitality. So to like respect other people's homes and like be kind to them if they let you in, and like on the flip side is like give people hospitality, like welcome people into your home. And so it's how like Odysseus is kind of like challenging these things, like challenging the laws of hospitality in certain ways with the Trojan War, or like invading all of these places. So he's doing all of these like really bad things that's like disrupting the balance of like what the gods are intending. So that's why like gods are fucking with him. And it's cool because a lot of these people, like a lot of the main stars, have worked with Christopher Nolan before. So Matt Damon has worked with him. I think this is his 3rd movie with him, and he was the first person confirmed to join the movie in February 2025. So Matt Damon's the lead, and he's great in it. I am not a huge Matt Damon person necessarily. I just like never really have connected with him. But yeah, I like him now. I found out he has 4 daughters. He's a girl dad, so that makes me like him. And then Anne Hathaway, this is her 3rd movie with Christopher Nolan too. And they have a special relationship because she was in The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight, I think, as Catwoman, and she's really good in it. And then in that same year is when she was also in Les Mis, and this 2012 was like Anne Hathaway's like double-edged sword. Like she was in the hit movies like Dark Knight and Les Miserables, but then she also got canceled for having short hair and being annoying. So people like really flipped on Anne Hathaway in 2012, and that lasted like a pretty like good amount of time. Like people just kind of decided that they didn't like Anne Hathaway. I don't really remember the hate train because I wasn't a part of it, because I've always loved Anne Hathaway. But she basically just like everyone just kind of flipped on her and like decided that they didn't like her anymore and like decided that she was cringe. But she always credits Christopher Nolan for like never being afraid to cast her in things, because he also cast her in Interstellar in 2014, which was like while that hate train was still going on. So she's always spoken like very lovingly about him and how like no one wanted to cast her in anything because she was annoying and people didn't like her anymore, but he still cast her in Interstellar. So now she's back and she's amazing in it. Tom Holland, this is his first Nolan film, and I'm also I don't dislike Tom Holland. I just don't really know him very well. I've never seen his Spider-Man, and I just haven't really seen any of his movies, but from all the interviews I've seen, he seems like so nice and so cute. So he was obviously really excited to be in this movie. And Robert Pattinson, this is his 2nd Christopher Nolan movie, because he was also in Tenet, which came out in 2020. A lot of people don't like Tenet, and I wouldn't watch it again, but I didn't like hate it necessarily. But I definitely would not watch it again. So, okay, more about like Christopher Nolan. So there's been a lot of, I feel like a big portion of the PR campaign for this movie has been talking about like working on a Christopher Nolan set and like how he operates and how people are cast. Because essentially the vibe is with Chris Nolan is that like, if you get offered a part, you say yes. Like you don't even read the script. So like everyone in the cast signed on like script sight unseen, like hadn't read the script, didn't even ask for it. Like if Nolan calls you, answered, you go. But the only person who asked to read the script was Robert Pattinson, which is so funny. And so Chris Nolan said that like he was surprised because everyone else just immediately signed on, but Robert was like, well, I'd like to see the script first, which is just really funny. And I love Robert Pattinson, and I'm like here for the Pattinsons. Mia Goth is also in the movie. She has a small role, and she said the auditions were super secretive. She said that during the audition, she was given like fake scripts, like not even that had like absolutely nothing to do with the movie, and like just read those. And she accepted the role before she like even knew who she was playing. So it's like, it's so interesting how secretive he is about these things. Also, apparently, like when the script is printed, it's only printed in red so that you can't like photocopy it or take pictures of it. Christopher Nolan is, I think, like, it's safe to say, like, every actor's dream director to work with, because he just puts out these absolute bangers, and he's like such a visionary. And also, like, the way that he runs set is pretty famous. So he doesn't allow any phones on set. Like, you're not allowed to be texting, you're not allowed to, like, no phones, no trailers even, and no chairs. So people aren't allowed to be sitting. Like, you have to keep the energy up, and like lunch is like really, really short. So it's all about like everyone interacting with each other, no distractions, no outside world, no retreating back into your trailers, like no sitting, no lounging. He doesn't even allow Uggs, like the shoe. He doesn't like leisure wear. He wants everyone to be like professional, which I'm like, that is tea, honestly. It makes me wonder how like other sets are. I guess people are just kind of dilly-dallying all the time, or it's like hard to find people, and it's like these damn phones. On his set, there's no video monitors. So usually on a movie set, there's this thing. They call it Video Village. And basically it's a little thing of like tents with like a bunch of different monitors where the director and producers and movie executives hang out and like watch through a screen what's going on. And so that way they can see all the angles, all the monitors, and they watch it through that. And then like the director will come out of Video Village and like give notes to the actors. But back in old Hollywood, obviously there weren't all these monitors and crazy things. Like the director stands next to the camera operator, and like that's what Chris Nolan does. So that when a scene is going on, it's just the actors, the camera operator, and Chris Nolan standing right next to the camera. Like there's no Video Village. And usually like with Video Village, like the actors will come back around and like watch the takes and watch it back and like fix it. And he doesn't even allow any of that either, which I feel like that's a good idea, because then the actors are really in the moment, and it feels more theatrical because you're not like thinking about a camera, like you're really able to like be a stage actor with your presence. But apparently he's been doing that since the beginning of his career, and I feel like that's cool. That's a good vibe. I'm down with that one. Another thing about Chris is that he famously doesn't have a phone, which this part I'm like, girl, like this is so pretentious. You've got to get over it. Like back in the Oppenheimer era, apparently Chris and Cillian Murphy would write each other letters, I think before Oppenheimer, because Cillian was also in The Dark Knight. He was in those movies, and Dunkirk, I believe. So he had worked with Chris a few times, and then Oppenheimer was like when Chris wanted to make Cillian a lead. And they would exchange letters because Chris doesn't have a phone, like no calling, no texting. And apparently what he does is like has his wife, Emma, like arrange the calls for him. And the actors just say that he calls from like a random landline from Universal. So you have to like be on your game in case you get a call from an unknown number, because it's probably Chris. So do it that way you will. I'm like, I feel like it's kind of dramatic, but it's cool. It's just like who can do this? Like only Christopher Nolan can do it, because he has this like power and aura. Like no other like up and coming director could behave like this. He just writes his own rules, I guess. It just sounds so cool to be in a Chris Nolan set. Like it's so secretive. Like everyone who's there really wants to be there. Everyone wants to work on a Chris Nolan film. Like the no phones thing is huge. Like, phones, I feel like just ruin everything. And not to make everything about the game show that I was on for 3 weeks 2 years ago, but like with the cast, because there was 100 of us in the cast and we were filming for about 3 weeks. And when we were like between filming, which we would film like 2 episodes a day, and we usually had like a good 3 hours between episodes, and then like an hour before like the day too, we weren't allowed to have any phones. So we would spend like 12 hours together in this like big holding room, 100 of us, no phones. And it like changes everything, because you're just interacting with each other. Like you have nothing else to do besides talk to each other, and phones just make it so easy to like retreat. So also with Chris is that he uses mostly practical effects. So practical effects in movies, it's like a trick on the eyes or an illusionment, or like you're not using computers to generate something or an animation that you're going to do later, a giant green screen. It's like using camera tricks or like optical illusions to like show a special effect, because he tries to use as little CGI as possible. So there's a Cyclops in the movie. So like this giant monster thing with one eye. That was an animatronic mechanical puppet, like life-size puppet. And it was like physically rigged up like in a real cave. Like most movies, especially with a Christopher Nolan budget, which is a blank check, it would be so easy to just like go get a big green screen and like do the dots on someone and then just like fix it in post, and like you generate like this thing. But it's like, no, he's actually creating it and building it. It's like he could have done the computer thing, but he doesn't want to, I think, because he just like really truly values like the art of filmmaking and not like doing the easy thing. And then there's these other like giants in the movie, these like giant warrior knights, and those are like actual 7 foot tall people. He found people to like play these parts in this movie like as giants and cast them, and they were 7 feet tall. And then he actually cast like body doubles for the Greeks with stunt performers that were like 5 feet tall that were wearing like the Greek ensemble. So like it looks like it's Matt Damon, Odysseus, and like the Greeks. But then like when you flip the camera around, like it's actually these like stunt doubles that are 5 feet tall standing below these like 7 feet tall giants. And then you angle the camera upwards and you're able to like play tricks on the viewers instead of using CGI to make giants. He is a hero for the anti-AI movement, which is really refreshing because Hollywood keeps like trying to push using like more and more AI because now big tech is sinking their gritty little fingers into like every aspect of humanity, including the creative arts. And so he is just like really pushing back on all of that and like is championing all the young people that are against AI, that like don't want AI slop and don't want AI actors and AI scripts and like AI editing. And what I have really enjoyed, like I like this theme, and it was obviously explored in Oppenheimer and it is a little bit too in the Odyssey of like creating the destruction of humanity. And it's like you create this amazing thing that like was such a feat. So like with Oppenheimer and the atom bomb, and then you realize the real effects that it has on the world. And the same thing like with Odysseus, like you're able to defeat the Trojans and then you get so caught up in it that you completely lose yourself and it leads to like all these terrible things happening. And he compares that to AI too. AI is this tool that can do all these amazing things. Like it can cure diseases, it can do medical treatments, like can like take mundane jobs away. But then it's like you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. And it's like, how can you stop it from like doing all of these terrible things and like taking away jobs and ruining the environment and like harming our creativity and our ability to think for ourselves. So I'm glad that like the top director right now is someone that is championing the creative arts. Okay. And then there's the IMAX drama. So this is like, I feel like one of the main pushbacks of the movie. So this is the first movie ever shot on IMAX cameras. And like IMAX has been around forever, obviously, but like this is the first one that is shot like the full entire like 3-hour movie. And who knows how long like the rough cuts were, but like fully shot for IMAX on IMAX cameras. And I think even like IMAX had to build like a special camera for him with like a silencer because the cameras are so big and bulky. And so it's filmed for IMAX because Chris is also a huge champion of like seeing movies like in theaters. And it's not even good enough to see them in theaters. It's like you need to see them with like the sound and you need to see them with like the screen has to be this tall. And like I get it to a certain extent. It's like, okay, yeah, you shouldn't watch like Interstellar on an iPad, but it's also like if people are going to the theaters, like just let that be enough, okay? And it's kind of created this whole like hoopla about like, well, there's only 40 IMAX theaters, like how am I going to get a chance to see it the way it's supposed to be intended? And I also feel like this kind of harkens back to spoiler culture, and it's this like grasp that people have on like wanting to experience everything like perfectly, like unencumbered, like nothing getting in the middle of it. Like you want everything to be a surprise. You want to be completely blown away. You want to see it exactly how it's supposed to be seen. And it's like, sometimes you got to let that shit go. Okay. Like when we were seeing it in Savannah, I was a little disappointed. I was like, oh, I want to see an IMAX, but it was full. I was like, okay, well, we could have these like 2 seats in the front, or we could go see it at the exact time that we want to see it in the next screen over. And I was like, okay, let's just do that, because also you have to trust that like, sure, I think like some things get cropped out if you're not seeing it on IMAX, but it's nothing that important. It's just like the bristles on their helmet. Like it really doesn't matter that much. And if it like seeing it on IMAX like is a barrier for you and you're not going to see it for 6 months, like then who fucking cares? Just go see the movie. And the other thing that like is crazy to me, so like shooting on film is really big again, because obviously every movie used to be shot on film. And when we say shot on film, like it is like physical film rolls, like, and it is heavy as a motherfucker. Obviously I've never picked one up, but like when digital came around, like filming stuff digitally, so like on a computer, like boom boom boom, hard drive, software, clouds, whatever, like everyone got really into that. So now it's making like film like having this huge renaissance, and it's like something, oh, it's shot on film. Obviously, it's really expensive and it's really fucking heavy too. Standard film is shot on 35 millimeters. So I think that is like, that's the Invite, the Olivia Wilde movie that just came out. And then IMAX film is shot on 70 millimeters. You get way more resolution and way more detail. So that's why people are saying you should see it on IMAX, because like since it's shot in 70 millimeters, which is so detailed, if you see it on like a smaller screen, it's going to distort it. But I'm just like, you know, you'll figure it out. The Odyssey was really, really good, and I definitely recommend it. I will be going to see it again. I'm really mad at myself for not studying up, but I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you guys see it. Thank you always for listening. We have such a good guest lineup coming up that I'm like seriously so excited about all of these guests that are coming up. So stick around. Please leave a comment. If you're on Spotify, please leave a comment here. 5-star rating is also great. You can do a 5-star rating on Apple too, but no pressure. Like seriously, not even a big deal at all. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know if you go see the Odyssey, and yeah, have a good day.